this guy Bob Doran who's getting thoroughly drunk today. He'll show up throughout the book. They drink in order to say or do something or chercher la femme. Up in the coombe with chummies and streetwalkers, and then the rest of the year sober as a judge. Bloom also thinks about what to get Molly for her birthday. It's coming up in September. It's fascinating that he can think so thoroughly and be so aware of her affair, but also be thinking about how he can give her a birthday gift. And then Bloom enters this restaurant, the Burton. It is, he's hungry, but as he gets in there, the atmosphere is just, it nauseates him and disgusts him. Here's how Joyce describes it. Smells of men, spat on sawdust, Swedish warmish cigarette smoke, reek of plug, spilt beer, men's beery piss, the stale of ferment. Bloom is too disgusted to eat there, but rather than just leave, he has to act like he's looking for somebody and he doesn't see them there. So he's like, oh well, better leave. He's always so sensitive to not offending anyone. And this is probably the most Lestrygonian moment of this chapter, when he's in this atmosphere of all these gross men eating. Every fellow for his own, tooth and nail, gulp, grub, gulp, gob stuff. To me, this recalls Tennyson, who Joyce references often in Ulysses, who trusted God was love indeed, and love creation's final law, though nature red in tooth and claw with ravine shrieked against his creed. So Bloom leaves there and he goes to this other place, Davy Byrne's. This is still there in Dublin. The original owner, Davy Byrne, is dead, obviously, but it's a much quieter atmosphere. There's only two people inside when he enters, the owner, Davy Byrne, and this other guy, Nosey Flynn, who is from Dubliners, a minor character. He, in Dubliners, he was also in Davy Byrne's. He seems to be quite a staple at this bar, and Bloom likes the atmosphere a lot more. Davy Byrne seems very quiet and respectful, and Nosey Flynn, he is kind of nosy. He talks with with Bloom a little, and he's kind of gross too. His nose is dripping with snot and he's picking his crotch. After the carnivorous hunger of the other restaurant, the Burton, Bloom just orders a cheese sandwich and a little glass of burgundy. He's all about moderation, especially in this ravenous world. He just gets by and he never gets drunk. Bloom talks with the men a little, and once again, Blazes Boylan comes up in reference to the concert tour that Molly is going to be going on. And Bloom just tries to steer away from it. And then there's this long passage of Bloom reminiscing about their younger days again and thinking about this time when they were on the hillside. Wildly, I lay on her, kissed her, eyes, her lips, her stretched neck beating, woman's breasts, full in her blouse of nun's veiling, fat nipples upright. Hot I tongued her, she kissed me, I was kissed. All yielding, she tossed my hair, kissed, she kissed me, and me now. Stuck, the flies buzzed. These two flies are in the bar having sex, and they really draw Bloom back to reality. Bloom has to pee and he goes to the restroom, and while he's gone, there's this great transition again away from Bloom's interior monologue to just Nosey Flynn and Davy Byrne. They talk about Bloom behind his back quite a bit. They say he never gets drunk, that he never signs his name to anything, and that he's also a Freemason, that the Masons give Bloom money. That's how he actually supports himself, not his advertising canvassing. He's in the craft, he said. Do you tell me so? Davy Byrne said. Very much so, Nosey Flynn said. Ancient free and accepted order. He's an excellent brother. Light, life and love, by God. They give him a leg up. I was told that by I won't say who. Conspiracy theories and secret societies, yay. Then three other men enter the bar. Paddy Leonard, Bantam Lyons and Tom Rochford. They're talking about the Gold Cup horse race. Bloom returns and he's leaving the bar, and he greets the men the way Joyce describes it as is a three-finger greeting, which I love. It's just like so Bloom. It's like, And as Bloom leaves, we jump back into his stream of consciousness, which we don't know what he's been thinking for the last few minutes when he went to the restroom. So we're kind of, there's this gap, and it just keeps going, keeps flowing. Something green it would have to be, spinach, say. Then with those Röntgen rays, searchlight you could. Bloom is now going to be heading to the National Library to get that advertisement with the cross keys that he'd seen so he can use it in his own advertisement for Alexander Keys. But on the way, he's going to run into this guy a young man described as a blind stripling, and Bloom is going to help him cross the street. He's always so compassionate and helpful. And as he helps him, he really thinks about blindness, what it means, and what the blind are capable of. This reminds me a lot of in Proteus when Stephen is thinking about blindness, and obviously Joyce has thought about blindness, but this is another parallel that between Bloom and Stephen. I think Joyce has thought about it because his eyes are deteriorating as he's writing Ulysses, and he's undergoing a lot of surgeries. But I've been watching through these Zatoichi movies about this blind man who's a samurai slash massage therapist, and I've wondered a lot of the same things that Bloom does about whether the blind are capable of sensing where things are. And then after that, as Bloom gets near the library, he notices this man, and he thinks it's Blazes Boylan. He's pretty sure it is, but he's not 100%, but he's like, oh, I want to get away from him. So he kind of dodges into the National Museum, and he'd been wondering about the statues of the goddesses, whether the statues, the women have anuses. So he decides to go in to take a look, and the last word of the chapter is safe. He's relieved. He's escaped Boylan. He's escaped the harshness of the outside world, and he's going to be away from Boylan, which is his chief concern. So that's the conclusion of this chapter, this dog-eat-dog world vision. And I wouldn't say this is my favorite chapter, but it has some nice moments, and it's pretty interesting. But I think the next 3 chapters are going to be much more innovative and daring, and the next chapter is actually one of my favorites.